Hey there everyone, and welcome. This is your host Pagawiggy, and today we're going to learn about the best strats for dealing with assholes that like to team up on you and try to ruin your day. I'm talking about those situations on Frontline where you're minding your own business, bashing the shit out of somebody, and then, out of nowhere, some asshole with a shield sticks a short spear right up your ass. Or your favorite, sword bukkake by 5 lovely knights right after a fresh kill. First and foremost, like in our previous guide on dueling, the most important thing to focus on when engaged in a one versus multiple people situation is how you're going to move during that fight. The most important combat movement to remember in 1 versus X is at all costs never allow yourself to become pinched between 2 players. In combat against only 2 players, always move in such a way to place one enemy between the other, such that they cannot attack easily without risking harming their teammate. Furthermore, try to mirror this practice in the 1 versus X situation as well. Simply, do not allow an enemy player to get behind you. The second most important movement tactic in 1vx is to always stay on the move. In 1 versus X, your enemies will often encircle you and try to kill you. If you stay on the move while keeping your enemies between one another, you should be much better off. The third most important tactic with regards to movement, especially when in front lines, is to use your constant movement to survey your surroundings. If you keep moving and keep obstructing your enemies with one another, you should have plenty of opportunity to look around for other incoming enemies. You should be primarily focused on the battle at hand, but keep an eye out for randoms, because in front lines, that's the most likely way that you'll end up dying. There are a couple of other movement techniques in Mordhau you might not know about that you can use to escape a bad situation. First of all is using your weapon charge to get out of danger. Just before the strike phase of your attack, your character gains a speed boost if you sprint forward while attacking. If you have wound up and are about to release your attack, but for some reason you think you might end up getting hit, turn away and sprint in that direction while attacking, to let your charge attack hopefully get you out of danger. If you were in decent proximity to your enemy and you heard them strike after you got away, start your wind-up right before you're about to face them. If you time this right, they will be in cooldown from their recent attack, giving you a free hit on your enemy. You can also use the boost charge to escape after you have chambered an attack. Sometimes this is a better strategy for escaping because it's likely to make your opponent become defensive, giving you more time to get away. The attack charges, however, should be used sparingly. They can easily drain your stamina and get you killed if you use them excessively or improperly. They are best used when you have allies around who can push forward when you fall back, but they can also be used in a straight-up 1vx situation anyway. Now let's get into the defensive guide and save our offensive discussion for last. Here we will cover some topics regarding defense alone and as a group. Most of these techniques are applicable to both situations. I will state when a strat is team-specific, otherwise assume it goes either way. You can use your typical parry to block incoming attacks, or you can use a chamber. In situations where multiple enemies are likely to strike at the same time, using the parry is better than chambering, as it can block from a wider range of directions and over a longer time interval. Using the parry and quickly reposting into an unsuspecting enemy is key when you are in a 1vx situation, especially when on the defensive. Using chambering in a fight is most ideal when you only have one enemy close enough to hit you. Since your enemies will probably be trying to flank you when you are fighting one person, use chambering to surprise them as they flank around. As you chamber an enemy's attack, redirect into the other enemy. You can simply redirect after you chamber, or you can morph into a different attack. When attacking in 1vx situations, it's most advantageous to be crafty, and to never attack your enemy when you're facing them head on. If the opening is there and it's safe to do so, by all means go ahead and give it to them. But when you have multiple enemies within striking distance, trickery is key. Thus, your best option is to attack nearby enemies when you repost or chamber off of your enemy's attack. A very good tactic to use is to attack the weakest of the group, thinning out the herd to make your life easier. This can mean keeping the noob in your peripherals and attacking whenever you have the chance. Or better yet, if there's a 1 versus 3 situation, or even more, choose the best enemy to attack based on the situation at hand. For example, if you parry to repost, and someone is just standing there winding up, direct your attack to them for an easy hit and stop their attack. Another important tactic regarding defense in Mordhau is footwork and movement skills. When on the defensive, you should be backing away from your enemies, but also surveying your surroundings. Don't blindly back up into another group of enemies, but back up in a somewhat irregular circular pattern to get the best idea of what's going on around you, while also keeping your enemies between one another. When you are being engaged by multiple enemies and you're alone and not in light armor, never try to run away. Chances are you will just end up dying because of the catch-up mechanic in the game. But if you turn and fight, you may at least stand a chance. Furthermore, in Frontline, there is a decent chance that if you are near the objective, teammates may come and help you as the fight continues. Dodging is also an essential technique in defensive one versus multiple people situations. Moving to the left to avoid a stab will save you countless times. Or turn left or right to avoid an overhead, and so on. Better yet, one versus multiple people situations allow you to exploit weaker players. If you move around and coax them the right way, while dodging at the right time, you can get them to team kill one another, on accident. Also, don't forget to use the attack charge off of chambers, or normal attack charges to get yourself into a better position for those 1 versus X fights. Working with a team in 1vx when on the defensive is much easier than alone. However, sometimes it can be a double-edged sword. Literally. If you are leading the front line, and then you take substantial damage, and your teammates are close behind, you can use any of the previous techniques to get safely away while letting them advance forward. Using the chamber charge away from the fight is a fantastic technique for this, because its offensive nature means that the enemy is less likely to chase you, as they will think that your attack will be directed at them. Unfortunately, relying on your teammates in a team fight can be a nightmare. Sometimes, and I guarantee this has already happened to you many times, you'll be taking names on the front line as your teammates are there assisting, and then suddenly you look around you and no one's there. Or, worse yet, you get hit by an enemy your teammate was fighting a second earlier. The only way to really avoid this is to maintain superb situational awareness while fighting. Don't get tunnel vision and pay attention to the whole picture. Now, we're going to discuss offensive strategies in the front lines and 1vx. The number one tip here is to not focus your attacks on the enemy you are facing, but instead direct all your attacks towards unsuspecting opponents. Of course, varying this when the time permits, or if the enemy that you're currently facing gives an opening. For example, if you are on the front line and engage in a 1v1 against an opponent, and you can't nail a hit on them, as soon as another enemy comes in range, fake your attack towards your initial opponent while attacking the new enemy. If they weren't ready for your attack and weren't expecting it, you should be able to nail a hit on them. Another amazing tip for offense against multiple opponents is to utilize drags and accels. Not only will drags and accels be more likely to land hits on your enemies, but they will also increase the number of enemies you can hit depending on how you drag your weapon. For example, if you are attacking somebody on your right with a right-handed attack, and then there are 2 enemies to the left of them, drag your attack through all the enemies to damage them. This can be a lifesaver in a fight because every little bit of damage makes those 1 versus X situations much easier as you pick off enemies one by one. Chambering is another extremely important offensive tactic, especially when on front line, and it will greatly increase your kill count. Not only can you employ the regular old chamber to kill an unsuspecting noob, but you can also use it in conjunction with attacking unsuspecting enemies. Simply use the chamber you have just performed and direct the attack towards another enemy. If the timing is right, you can combine this with a combo to get back at your original enemy, and you are likely to wreck plenty of dazed and confused noobs. Don't forget to use chambermorphs, feints, and chamber drags while employing chambering during your frontline fun. A chambering morph off of one enemy into another, coupled with a drag, is fairly OP against your average players. In addition to these tactics, you can combine some offensive movements to get a better leg up on your enemies. When on the attack, you should always move forward. Sprinting forward is the best option, as it will give you a movement boost just before the release of your attack. This can be used to cover unprecedented distances during the battle, confusing many novice players. Another important offensive movement tactic is to conceal your windup. If you are about to stab an enemy and none of your previous attacks have worked, you can turn away and conceal your stab windup, and then turning around when your weapon is about to be released, hitting your enemy. Not only does this work toward concealing your weapon windup, confusing your enemy, but it also helps to excel your attack, making it harder to dodge or block. Comboing your attacks can also be used not only in an offensive capacity, but also for defense. Or you can use comboing in combination with general combat movement to move around faster. You can use your missed attacks to redirect into a more advantageous position to set up for a hit with your comboed strike. Another even more advanced method is to use combo accelerated movements in conjunction with drags. As far as I can tell, some of the best players in Mordhau, like Stouty, employ a technique where they consistently combo at you while dragging their attacks away. This is extremely difficult to counter for several reasons. First off, the drags are hard to counter as is, but people like Stouty make it much harder because they will pull their drags away if you attempt to parry them, while also quickly comboing into the next attack with either an Accel or another drag. Oftentimes it can be impossible to gauge when a strike will come, so many times it seems as though it cannot be countered. Even more, your enemy can use the attack speed boost from the combo to get away from you. The best way to stop this technique is with a chambermorph, but this is very difficult to start because the random drags are coming your way. A player highly skilled in this technique will attack from various directions, making it nearly impossible to pick any specific attack to chamber, unless you have ace reaction times. Our last topic to discuss today is how to deal with shield users on the front line. I have already made a specific video about the topic, but here I will briefly discuss a few methods for dealing with them. First off is the regular old kick. Do as much as you can to get the shield user to attack you, baiting a stab. Chamber morph off of the stab into a kick, and with a quick stab combo, you have just nailed your first hit. Another good method to use is to use your attack charge to try and get around the shield user. In addition to that, you can also try to jump and attack over their guard. This works very well with overhand attacks. A weapon-based method specific to attacking a shield user requires using a long arm, such as the halberd, to stab them at a distance and keep them at bay. However, my favorite method for dealing with shields is trickery while being aggressive. I constantly stab the shield user because it's the fastest attack. I constantly switch up my attacks with kicks and feints as I near close to them. If I spam stabs and a feint a couple times at them, I can get them to come out of their guard, nailing a hit. Or if I use this stab and feint technique while consistently kicking at them, I can morph into a kick during this technique, getting an easy hit on them. Well, that's it for this video, everyone. Thanks so much for watching. To sum it all up, if you want to be one of the best on the front lines, all you need to do is master a plethora of skills. First, focus on mastering movement techniques. Then, you can learn decent offensive and defensive skills. If you need any of the topics in this video discussed in a bit more detail, please refer to my Mordhau guide playlist. If the guide you seek is not there, leave me a comment and I will see if I can make it. As always, if you enjoyed this video, please subscribe, like, and comment for more great content just like this. I thank all you once again, and I will see you in the next video.